Welcome to the tutorial Troubleshooting the Jost Outboard Sliding Fifth Wheel. Here you will learn how to resolve mounting issues, how to inspect for slider bed squareness, how to resolve release mechanism issues, and the importance of periodic maintenance. During this presentation, the top plate has been removed. First, we will look at how to resolve mounting issues. Begin by using a straight edge to check that the mounting angles are flush with the top of the tractor frame. The maximum allowance above or below the frame is 30 thousandths of an inch. Another indicator that the mounting angles may be too low is to check for paint scraped off on either one or both of the inside edges of the slide plate. If the mounting angles are too low, the slide plate bends up in the middle. To correct these issues, loosen the bolts on the frame rail side to be adjusted and adjust the mounting angle using a straight edge. In most cases, the mounting angles will spring back when loosened. Do not remove the fifth wheel to perform this step. After properly aligning the mounting angle, tighten all mounting bolts to their proper torque. Now let's check the slide plate to make sure the front is square with the length of the plate. Loosen the mounting bolts and adjust the slide bed or mounting angle using a large square. Or you can check by measuring the diagonals. If alignment cannot be achieved with the existing bolt hole clearances, correct the problem by measuring and modifying the mounting angle to fit. After properly adjusting, tighten all mounting bolts to their proper torque. Next, inspect that the locking plunger teeth are aligned with the rack on both sides. If teeth are aligned, lock and unlock to check for proper operation. Then slide the bracket to the front or rear stop and check clearance. If there is more clearance on one side, the bracket is out of square and will need to be repaired or replaced. Now let's look at release mechanism issues. If the plunger is frozen or rusted, use a hammer and a large punch to free the plunger by hitting the center tooth. The plungers are loose if you can feel the compression spring re-engaging the plunger. If the plunger pushes back and does not re-engage, clean and lubricate the plunger housing. If the release mechanism does not close completely, or the cylinder doesn't close, to give additional closing force, the double coil spring can be relocated. To do this, place 5/16 inch holes in the cylinder mount and in the pivot arm as shown. Clean all pivot points, spray with penetrating oil like PB Blaster or Croil, and grease the center pivot under the bottom of the pivot bracket as shown. Then reattach the double coil springs into the new holes. To free up the plunger, remove the bolt attaching the rod end of the cylinder to the pivot arm and swing the cylinder away from the mechanism. Place a pipe over the pivot arm and open the release mechanism to break free the corrosion, dirt, and debris. Next, turn air off and disconnect the air line from the cylinder. Energize the air and drain any water from the lines. The Jost cylinder requires 90 psi to operate. If the air is not getting to the cylinder, check for air system failure. Now measure the current rod extension. Then energize the air to the cylinder and verify that the difference between the extended length and retracted length is 5 inches. If necessary, drain any water from the air cylinder. The cylinder is at the end of the system and may have collected water. If rod does not extend or the difference is less than 5 inches, replace the cylinder. If the distance is equal to 5 inches, the cylinder is okay, but the slider may be out of square or there may be a problem with the release mechanism. Reconnect the air cylinder and check for proper operation. If the cylinder operates freely, check for slider squareness. If the cylinder does not operate freely, you need to disassemble and clean the mechanism as follows. Remove the cylinder and the double coil spring. Remove the lock nut and washers. Remove the cotter pin and clevis pin. Rotate the linkage bars out of the way. Remove the lock nut and washer from the pivot arm and remove the pivot arm. Remove the bushing from the pivot arm and replace with new part number SK77292-01. And then reassemble with marine grade anti-seize grease on all pivot points. Remember to keep the mechanism clean and operating freely with periodic maintenance. Clean and remove debris from the mechanism as required. Unlock, move the slider, and relock. Lubricate pivot points with penetrating oil such as PB Blaster or Croil. This concludes the tutorial troubleshooting the Jost Outboard sliding fifth wheel. For additional information on this or any other Jost products, please contact Jost International at 1770 Hayes Street, Grand Haven, Michigan 49417. Phone number 616-846-7700 or at www.jostinternational.com.